Welcome to Events Heist, the game show podcast about post-COVID events and the event professionals that run them. In this episode, you're going to hear from Adam Parry and Matt Coyne. Adam is the co-founder and editor of Event Industry News and the director of Event Tech Live. Hear about the time he met Beyonce, Jay-Z, and many other celebrities in an elevator. Matt is the digital director of Raccoon Events and the co-founder of Twig.io. He shares stories about a paragliding festival in Wales and a train strike during an event. So Adam, you have rolled a 6. So first question to you. How many years have you been in the events industry?
15.
15 years. Excellent. All right, Matt, you've rolled 5. Matt, how many events have you run in your professional career?
So I've always been on the supplier side. So running is
or been involved in.
Yeah,
been involved in.
Involved in hundreds. I couldn't put an actual number on it.
He'd show his age if he did. That's what happened.
All right, Adam, you've rolled a 4. Okay, so same question. How many events have you been involved in your professional career?
I'm going to say involved in, I would say probably 27, I think. Thinking
Excellent.
about the amount of times that we've done each of our events and some other stuff. Yeah, 27, I think.
Okay, Matt, you've rolled a 6. I think you're up the ladder. Nope. You're one step. All right, Matt, tell us about the biggest event you've been involved with.
There's probably quite a few. One of maybe my first biggest challenging events was the sort of outdoor trade and consumer paragliding festival. So we had an element, it was all camping, fields, music, everything in the middle of Wales. And we had, a big tent that we were sort of drawing chalk lines on the grass for people to get equipment on. So you had to deal with all of that side of stuff, as then the consumer element of people arriving and working with the campsite to get people in the right pitches. And it's amazing how many people complain about pitches. And then because it was all things paragliding and stuff, you had people just taking kit up the top of a hill, flying off and not really landing in the place that they should be landing in. There were a few, let's say, logistical issues that we had to deal with that, but it was, that was probably my first foray into organizing a bigger event. We had, I don't know.
Did anyone land into any tents? Because it sounds dangerous.
Almost. I think the closest actual, near miss we had was landing in the middle of a herd of cows. So yeah, that was pretty exciting.
The same question to you. What's the biggest event that you've been involved in?
I think one of the biggest ones globally would have been, I can't remember how many years ago this, but it was the Chime for Change concert that was held at Wembley here in the UK. And it kind of had it was Beyonce's thing. It was really her kind of rolling that out. And it had probably some of the most famous people I've ever seen it. Madonna, Timbaland, Salma Hayek, Jay-Z as well was there. Interesting story about that one was that I was there to interview the production manager of that event and also the security. And we knew the security really, really well. And the easiest way to get to the production office was actually to go backstage, stage left, and go down one of the concourses and up one of the freight elevators to this location on one of the upper floors of Wembley Stadium. As we were getting escorted halfway down the concourse, we first passed Salma Hayek and Ryan Reynolds. So that was I was within touching distance of them. But then a fire alarm went off and everybody went into red alert. So we got taken to another elevator and so I'm told just stay here. I'll be back in 5 minutes. We were one of the top security guards. And we didn't realize, but at the time we were kind of in this really small, I would say about 4 meter by 4 meter entranceway. And that was artist liaison elevator. So literally we had Jay-Z with his family, Timbaland, Madonna coming in curls, and I probably spent the next hour trying to look the most uninterested in the whole situation that I'd ever been, but inside was literally freaking out with all these people.
So Matt, tell me about the first event that you organized. And it can be professional, can be as a kid, entirely up to you. Just the first one you remember.
I mean, if I go back to school, it would have been the first kind of thing we did to try and fundraise for a skate park in our local town. And I mean, yeah, wow, we had like 6 kids up against like a board of school people and council people, and we were kind of like little punks with didn't really care what they thought. We just wanted a skate park. So I learned a lot from that experience. But yeah, so we'd organize all sorts of, I guess, fundraisers, and you know, I guess you could call it flash mobs of the 90s, of, you know, getting a whole load of kids to sit down in the middle of a town square so someone would actually listen to us. So yeah, that was probably, I guess, maybe some of my first event experience, I suppose.
All right, Adam, what's your favorite post-event junk food, drink, stress release activity?
It's got to be a Domino's pizza. That's so skanky, isn't it? But yeah, Domino's pizza. I don't share it, just for me.
So Matt, how did you get into events? I mean, you told us about your first event, but how did you get into it professionally?
I started working with a design agency that specifically worked with organizers on campaigns for events. So that's kind of where, I mean, then it became all about events. It was just total specialist on that. And then, yeah, I loved it from that moment on. So yeah, that's probably where it started. So that was like 2002 or so.
Do you have a favorite celebrity story? Someone you met, and what were they like?
Funnily enough, I haven't, because my side's always been the guys that run the show rather than the guys that perform the show. Had an interesting interaction with Rita Ora once, but I won't go into that because I'm not going to swear just yet.
Wait,
no, come on, you can't. Like, firstly, she's one of my favorite singers, so I want to hear the story. Secondly, you got to swear. So yeah, for 2 reasons.
So again, this was a scenario where we were backstage at an event, and she was coming one way, obviously with her like big crew of people. And she, to be fair, she was obviously in the zone. She was on a mission. She was going on stage. She was hyped up. And I can remember me and somebody else being in this backstage, and she was just like, "Get the fuck out of the way." So we were like, "Oh, okay, right, fair enough." And then, but we were still backstage, obviously, at the end of her set, and she totally came up to us and said, "Listen, I'm so sorry. Like, I shouldn't have like acted like that. I shouldn't have said that to you. Like, you know, hope you have a good event," all that kind of stuff. So it was a really weird interaction of just like 1 minute, fuck off, and then the next minute, sorry.
All right, Matt, you've rolled a 3. Oh, wait a second. I think you're down the manhole. Oh, there you go. What do you love and or hate about events? Sometimes it's the same thing.
So yesterday I went back to my first trade show in like 18 months. Maybe I'll get the hate out the way first. And the hate is the travel and the hassle of getting there. You just can't get rid of it, you know. And it was, I mean, so it was a long trip for me anyway, which isn't normal, I suppose. But, you know, I was probably traveling for about 10 hours there and back yesterday. Actually, at the show, it kind of made me realize the power and importance of face-to-face. And it was the serendipitous type moments. And it's something that people talk about what they're trying to recreate and do online.
Adam, you rolled a 4.
This is a stitch up.
Classic events. Same question. How did you get into events?
I got into events through, I guess, my first job in publishing, which was working for a magazine called The Main Event. It predominantly focused on kind of like outdoor festivals and things like that. And at the time, I wasn't really looking to get into events. It was just a job working across kind of like sales, editorial, marketing. It was kind of one of those mixture roles. And I thought I could do it. And funnily enough, my now co-founder of our current business was my boss at the time. So I've got him to thank for giving me a career in events, because he was the one that took a chance on me, I guess, for that thing.
I'm going to ask you your favorite post-event junk food, drink / de-stressing activity.
The healthy side of me is like to go for a run or a swim or something like that, or a surf or something. Because
Oh wow, yeah, that is the healthiest reply I've heard to that question in 14 episodes. Describe the moment you knew COVID was going to turn the industry upside down.
I can remember it vividly. I was actually with the rest of my team, and we were in London. And Matt, you were actually supposed to be at this event, I think. It was Rob Murdoch's exposure analytics event, and we help partner and deliver them an audience for that. It's a very intimate event. It's an invite only event, and it's a great event because everybody those smaller events, people get to network with each other. And I can remember vividly, we were at a restaurant, and we were just finished eating, and I can remember being stood outside with my business partner, and we both. I looked at him and I was like, "What do you reckon to this COVID-19 thing? Then do you think it's gonna affect things?" And the moment at that time, he was like, "I don't think so. I'm not sure." And then literally 24 hours later, this was on a Saturday. I got a phone call, and I was like, "Actually, I think this might be serious."
Matt, you wrote a 10. Same question.
So I was at Confex and chatting to Mark Brewster from Explory in the Isles, and I think one of his clients had come over from Italy, the seriously affected part or region of Italy that was being put into lockdown. And I remember him saying he was sending all of his staff home, like they weren't going to be in the office, and we're kind of going to wait and see what happens. And I think just from that moment, that was definitely reality. As I sat on the train home, going, "What's happening?" So just asking lots of questions, I guess myself and to team and others in industry, but not really obviously knowing the full extent of what would come. But there was definitely a reality check from there.
Favorite venue?
Oh, do you know what? That's a really hard question.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for the lifeline on that one.
All right, Matt.
Back to my roots, there would definitely be a beach involved. And when we were part of an event on a beach in Maui in Hawaii, and to go back there and do it with what I know now would be amazing.
Okay, so what? So this is a general question. What industries have you done events for, and what was your favorite?
I have done events for the construction industry associations, and then event profs. This is not because this is obviously for event profs, and we're all event profs here, but genuinely for event profs, because it's the most challenging at the same time as being the most rewarding. But they also don't hold back and tell you when you've done things wrong.
Matt, you've rolled an 11. I think that puts you up the ladder.
Relationship.
Yes, there you go, right up. Do you have a favorite event war story?
Yeah, one of the, I guess, first events that I was working registration for. So we provided a registration for one of Centaur's events. And it was the first one at that time that a kind of new client involved, trust us, we deliver, et cetera, and everything was kind of working, but there was then train strikes going on. So you had like one tube, whatever it was, like an hour. So you suddenly had, instead of a trickle of people coming in, you had literally hundreds and hundreds. And then you had to queue them up outside Olympia, I think. No, Earl's Court 2, I think, at the time. And so then they had to queue up outside. It was raining, and these are like some of the most senior people in the travel industry getting soaked. So there I was kind of on the front doing lanyards and badges. It was like all hands to the deck. And I don't think it stopped for about 6 hours before we kind of got a breather.
If you could have an unlimited supply of just one thing during an event, what would it be?
Brum, done. Next question.
Matt, you rolled a 9. Oh, no.
Oh.
What's the most stressful event you've ever been involved in?
This is a good one to lifeline, definitely.
All right, Adam.
It was obviously a launch event, so budget was tight. We were trying to keep things in house, and lack of experience as well. I'm not going to lie. We decided to do this ourselves, and we created all this content. But as it is, last minute changes, all this kind of stuff. So we were trying to render these videos to give to the AV team to be able to put on the big screens. And my younger brother worked with me at the time with my business partner, and they were all the way in a hotel. And I can literally remember still the guests were arriving in terms of like the drinks reception, and my brother and Paul still weren't in the building with the hard drive with the videos on because we were cutting it that close.
Wow.
I think that hard drive honestly got plugged in about 4 minutes before we were actually starting to roll. And then funnily enough, second to that, the actual screens actually switched themselves off after like the third awards. So the event tech went down at event tech awards, but that was so stressful because I was like, how do we do an award ceremony when we can't actually show people like who's shortlisted and who's won, kind of thing?
So have you read anything recently that you'd like to share with other event professionals? Read or watched on TV, whatever it is, something that you would think is useful.
Yeah, I mean, a really good book. I guess I read this, maybe it was last year, but The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. I think is really important. And it's kind of, it's not saying you can't avoid the stuff that needs to get done kind of thing, but it's like sometimes the peripheral kind of stuff.
Do you have any favorite event war stories?
I've been going out to IMEX Frankfurt for a couple of years. Great event, great opportunity to kind of network and maybe do some education, speak, all that kind of stuff. And very close friend of mine, and actually Matt knows this geezer as well, a guy called Ash. I was like, Ash, you should probably come out to this event for a couple of days, spend some time there, check it out. Maybe it's somewhere you want to exhibit, but I know a bunch of people there. It'll be good networking opportunity. So they booked a flight, came over. As with all IMEXs, there's an MPI event kind of on the first night or second night of the end of the show, can't remember. We got tickets, we went to this club night, had a great time. He thought I'd left, so we kind of left at slightly separate times. I'm not gonna lie, I couldn't even tell you what time, I couldn't even tell you what day it was. I wake up in the morning, saw Head, get up, see one of our other friends, we go grab some breakfast. Got a telephone call from a German telephone number, and it was Ash. He was at the hospital. He'd been mugged as he walked outside of the actual club night on his way home.
So virtual events, you a fan, not a fan?
I think they definitely have their place, 100%. I think it depends what they're there for, and maybe it's not the virtual event, but maybe it's the always on part of it.
What trends do you see occurring in the industry?
The biggest trend that I'm seeing from the trade show guys is moving to subscription models for across both exhibitor, sponsor, and attendee. And I'll tell you why. It changes the business model, and it also makes it much more resilient to anything like what the pandemic could another pandemic or something like world altering kind of thing coming and stopping us. It was very apparent that events worked on life cycles of 12 months or so, and you were restarting back at the beginning, and in some cases had very transient kind of customers, whereas the subscription model makes you a lot more resilient to it expand. You're obviously expanding out your value proposition. You're providing other things to that community and that industry. Maybe that's lead generation more consistently through the year, brand exposure, content opportunities, that kind of stuff.
Do you think hybrid events will be the new normal?
Yeah, I think for some of the reasons Adam just mentioned, but some that I mentioned before as well. I think just being able to give people the opportunity to engage. We talk about that right time, right place, all that kind of thing. And it's like, well, actually, if I've got an hour this afternoon that I could, log in and see something, but I've been in meetings all morning, well, I could do that online. But if I'm able to go and see in person, I can do that. But I think just the accessibility of events, so for people with various abilities or disabilities, I think it really opens up the doors for that audience as well that maybe couldn't attend before.
So Adam, when do you think in-person events will return to your region?
Yeah, I mean, we're lucky enough to have some events happening. In fact, I'm in a WhatsApp group where some event profs had a hybrid small scale event. I'm hoping Mr. Boris Johnson and the rest of the team, sort their act out and give us the green light to really start ramping back up, because venue capacities and things like that are problematic at the moment. Certainly, any trade show in the market really going to struggle to move forward unless the restrictions are eased.
So, if you could have a pet at an event, what would it be?
Shark.
Not a shark.
No one's going to come and complain to you with your shark next to you, that's for sure.
I mean, right? Like, anyone you didn't want, chase him out. Like, go get him, boy.
Okay, Adam, you rolled a 5, and I think you reached the end. Congratulations. You are the winner. Tell me the TV show or movie that best describes your events life.
Jurassic Park.
That's a great one. I love it.
I was going to say White Men Can't Jump, like In for the Hustle.
Yeah, I feel, and the way I describe that is like, I forgot what it's called. I'm the doctor that tells everybody to come and exhibit. Come to the park. It's going to be amazing. And then there's these things called exhibitors that like resemble velociraptors, kind of chasing everybody around.
That's exactly that's the first thing. As soon as you said Jurassic Park, I just imagined the velociraptors chasing you in the jungle. I was like, yeah, that sounds exactly like a event's life.
Yeah, Jurassic Park.
All right, so Matt, we'll move you up to the top there now. You've rolled a 2. Okay, so last question. What do you think the future of events will look like in the next 2 to 3 years?
If we're talking face to face, I think yes, there's still business to be done, right? There's still meetings to be had. There's still things to learn, but I think people want to see people. And it's like yesterday at the one I was at, there was definitely meetings being had and business being done, but there was just seeing people and chatting and not being behind a screen. So if we're talking face to face, I think the social aspect we need to cater for, even more so, because it's just amazing. And it's, yeah, I'm certainly going to be quite social at any event I go back to, that's for sure.
Thanks so much for being guests of Events Heist. It's been amazing having you on.